You just got your mortgage quote back. $2,800 a month. 30 years? That's over $1 million by the time you're done. And somewhere around 300,000 of that is just interest, not even your house. So you sit there doing the math on a napkin, feeling like you did something wrong. Everyone told you renting is throwing money away. Everyone told you buying is the responsible adult thing to do. But the number on that napkin doesn't feel responsible. It feels terrifying. Here's the uncomfortable fact nobody puts on the front page of the real estate listing. In a lot of major cities right now, the same house that costs $2,800 a month to buy would rent for $1,800. That's $1,000 gap every single month for 30 years. And that gap is exactly why so many people feel stuck. You've been told there's only one right answer. Buy young, buy fast, build equity, escape the rent trap. But what if the math underneath that advice was built for a completely different economy than the one you're living in? This video is going to walk you through the actual math, the kind your realtor never shows you, so you can figure out which path actually builds you more wealth, not which one just sounds more grown up. I'm going to break the American dream open and show you what's really inside it. If you're serious about building wealth instead of just following the script, subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is for. Here's something that might sound a little controversial. Buying a home is not an investment. It's a lifestyle purchase that occasionally happens to appreciate. And confusing those two things is where most people's math falls apart. Let's split it into two simple buckets. Bucket 1 is forced savings. When you pay a mortgage, part of that payment builds equity, which is basically a savings account you're forced to contribute to every month. Bucket 2 is opportunity cost. That's what your money could have earned somewhere else if you hadn't put it into a house. Almost nobody weighs bucket 2. They only ever look at bucket 1. So let's run the numbers. Say you have $60,000 for a down payment. You buy a $400,000 home. Over 10 years, if that home appreciates at a modest 3% a year, it's worth around $537,000. Feels great, right? Now here's the same $60,000, but you rent instead, and invest that $60,000 in an index fund, averaging 7% a year, which is close to the historical stock market average. After 10 years, that $60,000 alone, untouched, grows to about $118,000. And that's before you even add the monthly difference between your lower rent payment and what a mortgage would have cost, which, if invested too, can add tens of thousands more on top. Suddenly, the guaranteed grown-up choice doesn't look so guaranteed. So why does almost nobody actually run these numbers before signing a 30-year loan? It's not because people are bad at math. It's because buying a home feels safe and renting feels temporary, even when the spreadsheet says otherwise. We're wired to chase stability we can see and touch, a front door with our name behind it, over an account balance on a screen that could dip next year. Homeownership also comes loaded with social pressure. Family asks when you're buying. Friends post their new kitchen. Nobody posts a screenshot of their brokerage account growing quietly in the background. Now, you might be thinking, sure, but rent goes up every year, and my mortgage payment stays fixed. So eventually, renting has to lose. And that's a fair point. But here's the thing. Mortgages come with property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and repairs that also rise over time, often faster than rent in the same area. A fixed mortgage payment is not the same as a fixed cost of ownership. The number on your loan document is just the beginning of the real bill. So if the math isn't as simple as buy equals winning, how do you actually decide what's right for you? Here's a system that cuts through the noise, using 5 clear steps. Step 1, calculate your true price to rent ratio. Take the price of a home you're considering and divide it by the annual rent of a comparable property. If that number is above 20, renting is often mathematically stronger in that market. If it's under 15, buying starts to make more sense. A $400,000 home renting for $1,800 a month or $21,600 a year gives you a ratio of about 18. That's a gray zone, which means the decision comes down to what you do with the difference, not the purchase itself. Step 2. Calculate your real monthly gap. Subtract your estimated mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance, from the local rent for a similar place. In our earlier example, that gap was around $1,000 a month. That number is your fuel. What you do with that fuel determines everything. Step 3. Invest the gap. Don't just spend it. If you choose to rent, that $1,000 difference has to go into an investment account automatically, the same day you'd have paid a mortgage. This is where the extended analogy comes in. Think of a lump sum of cash sitting in a house like a seed you buried in a jar. It's safe, it's contained, but it barely grows on its own. Money placed in the market, reinvested and compounding, is more like a seed actually planted in open soil, exposed to some weather and risk, but with real room to grow roots and multiply year after year. A house locks your seed in the jar. The market lets it spread. Step 4. Factor in your time horizon. If you plan to stay somewhere less than 5 years, buying rarely wins once you include closing costs and selling fees, which can eat 6% of the home's value right off the top. On a $400,000 home, that's $24,000 gone just for the privilege of moving. Step 5. Run the 20-year projection, not the 2-year feeling. Here's the number that should actually keep you up at night. That same $60,000 down payment, left invested for 20 years at 7% instead of parked in a home, grows to roughly $232,000. That's not a typo. That's the real cost of assuming a house is automatically your best financial move. One mistake people make constantly is only comparing rent to a mortgage payment and ignoring maintenance, which typically runs 1 to 2% of a home's value every year. On that same $400,000 house, that's up to $8,000 annually, quietly eaten before you've built $1 of real wealth. Let's bring it all together. Check your price-to-rent ratio. Find your real monthly gap. Actually invest that gap instead of letting it disappear. Factor in how long you'll really stay. And run the 20-year number, not just the fearing you have this year. Here's the line to remember. Renting isn't throwing money away. Buying without a plan is throwing money away, with better landscaping. The American dream isn't broken because owning a home is bad. It's broken because nobody taught us to run the actual numbers before chasing it. If this video just changed the way you think about your next housing decision, subscribe, because this channel exists to hand you the math nobody else will show you. So tell me in the comments, rent and invest or buy and build equity? Which one are you choosing right now?